Growing up, I was really close to my family. I was really close to all of my siblings and to my parents. There was a lot of love. Although when I was about 7 or 8, I was molested by one of my neighbors who was a lot older than me. I had no idea what sex was. I grew up in a family where we didn't talk about sex, and I felt ashamed. I felt embarrassed. A little bit before I turned 13 years old, I was raped by somebody who I thought was my friend. He invited me to meet him in the park one night, and I ended up getting raped by several men. After that night in the park and the intimidation and abuse that followed, I didn't reach out for help because I blamed myself. I blamed myself for getting into the situation. I blamed myself for being there that night. I blamed myself for being in a similar situation to that when I was younger. I started acting out in Hebrew school because I couldn't understand why I had to dress modestly only to have my clothing taken off by a much older man. I was depressed, I was anxious, I had no idea of what to do and where my life was going. The person who raped me started following me and intimidating me and eventually forced me into prostitution. I always had excuses for all of my injuries. I would try to hide them, but when I couldn't hide them, I would say I fell, or I would say I was beaten up by random people, or I was robbed. I started getting a reputation in my neighborhood among the police as being rebellious or being disrespectful. I was stabbed one night, and the police officer who came to the hospital recognized me, and instead of going after the person who did this, he chose to close the case right then and there. I was put in contact with Met Counsel at the DA's office. I met with the social worker there, and right away I felt like finally there's somebody that understands me. Talking to her, I was able to hear somebody that will not push me to do what I'm not ready to do, somebody who is really looking out for my safety. Met Counsel provided my family and I with the resources we needed, both financially and emotionally, to be able to pick up and move, to allow me to testify and not fear for their safety.